As of the writing of this script, Tears of the Kingdom is 14 days away, and I want to play through Breath of the Wild again before it comes out. However, I can't possibly just do a normal playthrough of Breath of the Wild. No. I have to make it interesting, and mildly torturous. So, what I'm going to do is get the true ending of Breath of the Wild without using any melee weapons, and make a video about it in the time that remains before the release of Tears of the Kingdom. So, here are the rules for this run. I can only use shields and runes in combat. I can't use any melee weapons whatsoever. If it goes in the sword stash, it has to be thrown away immediately. This includes torches. Bows can only be used for solving puzzles in the overworld, accessing the divine beasts, and defeating Dark Beast Ganon. I am not allowed to wear any clothes, other than what is required by story or location. And when it's not required, I gotta take them off. I'm also not allowing myself to use any permanent health or stamina upgrades. In fact, the one that you get at the Great Plateau, I've got to go get rid of that as soon as I can. And lastly, I'm not using any champion powers. When I get them after Divine Beast, I've got to immediately disable them. I should also point out that I'm working on this video as I go, which means, as of writing this, I've got no idea if I'm actually going to accomplish this. Whatever I do finish, whether I complete the challenge or not, will be uploaded before the release of Tears of the Kingdom. This is mainly so that I can kind of force out a video, so to speak, because it's just been so long since I've made one, and I kind of want to get back into it. But with all that said, my time is limited, so let's get right to it. Starting out, the Great Plateau didn't really cause me any problems. I had it knocked out in about 30 minutes and made sure to grab a handful of Korok seeds, because I think I'll need the extra shields later on. And I know I can get 8 upgrades before Hestu goes back to the Korok Forest. Once I got the paraglider and landed in Hyrule Field, my next task was to book it directly to Hateno Village so that I could sell the stamina vessel that I got on the Great Plateau to the demon statue near Link's house. Along the way, I captured a horse to make the trip a little bit faster, and I named it Shields, because of course I did. Once in Hateno, I sold my soul to the Hylian Devil and activated the shrine nearby for easier fast travel. And with that, I was ready to continue on my quest. Then I headed on towards Kakariko Village and helped Hestu get his maracas back so I could go on and get my first 2 shield stash upgrades. In Kakariko, I learned about Pora from Impa and then warped back to Hateno in order to activate the tech lab there. This is where I hit my first hang-up. Since I'm not allowed to use any melee weapons, I'm also not allowed to use torches to light the lanterns, which means I had to use bows. But I don't have the best aim in the world. I was able to get most of the lanterns lit using the knight's bow that I got on top of the Temple of Time, but once I got to the second to last one, it was just too far away for me to be able to hit. I'm sure there are people who can make this shot just fine, but I'm not one of those people. Fortunately, I had a plan. Unfortunately, that plan required me traveling across Hyrule to the Gerudo Desert. So the bow I need is in Gerudo Town, which means in addition to traveling across Hyrule, I've got to get some clothes. I warped to the Great Plateau and made my way to the desert from there. Outside of Gerudo Town, I learned about Velia. I went and got my clothes from them, and then inside Gerudo Town, next to Tiki, set my bow. With my new bow in hand, I finished off the torches fairly easily, and then got the camera room from Pora. After that, I decided it would be a good idea to waste the rest of the day trying to kill a Lionel. I'm going to need its shield later, so I figured, why not go on and try to take it out now? My plan was to bring a Cuckoo and hope it would kill the Lionel for me, but unfortunately I couldn't get the Lionel to actually attack the Cuckoo. And every time I inevitably died against it, I would lose the Cuckoo because of the weird way that Breath of the Wild saves its game. So what actually happened is I ended up spending way too much time running back and forth from the Riverside Stable to the Coliseum in order to try to get this shield that I never even got. I decided it was time to take on my first Divine Beast, and the easiest to go after was going to be Vah Ruta. Getting up to Ruta was a bit of a challenge, considering it was raining and remote bombs are really bad weapons against groups of Lizalfos armed with shock arrows. The trip required quite a bit of scampering up cliff sides, which, in the rain, isn't the best idea. However, I did eventually get past all Lizalfos peppering my path and met King Dorephan and Sidon. I skipped the initial meeting with Sidon at the bridge, just for the fun of it. From them, I learned about the Divine Beast and how to get shock arrows from a nearby Lionel. Considering how my first attempt to kill a Lionel went, I decided just to buy the arrows from Lurelin Village instead. From there, it was a simple task of deactivating Ruda's pumps, which, unfortunately, I did have to wear a shirt for that, and boarding the Divine Beast. And now, I'm not gonna lie, the dungeon was about the same as always. Remote bombs can be used to destroy the Malisize just as easily as arrows can, and the Guardians go down with some simple shield parries. The closest thing to a challenge I was presented with was getting up to the upper level of the Divine Beast, which would usually have you swimming up a waterfall to get to. But this was not a point where I was actually required to use the Zora's armor, so I found another route up by riding Ruda's trunk and gliding down to the upper level. With all that done, I finally challenged WATERBLIGHT Ganon. The fight started with it throwing its spear at me, which I easily parried to stun it long enough for me to throw an absurd number of bombs at it. 3 parries was all it took to get it to the next stage of the battle, where it fills the room with water, and I'm restricted to a few small platforms to fight it from. The major difference here is that while it can fire off a Guardian laser from its face and throw its spear, it seemed to prefer just to send ice blocks after me. Not a huge problem, and I ultimately settled into a strategy of standing on top of my own ice block and chucking remote bombs at it. It was slow, and I did die once because I forgot to eat a defense-boosting food, but I ultimately took it down, allowing Mipha's spirit to take control of the Divine Beast Vah Ruta once again. With one Divine Beast down, I'm getting closer to that point when I'll need a Lionel Shield, and I'm going to have to prepare a bunch of meals to keep my defense and health up. The easiest way to do that will be to purchase the ingredients, but I'll need a lot of money, and the best place to get valuable items to sell is Death Mountain. So, I guess I'm taking on Divine Beast Vah Rudanya next. Death Mountain will be interesting, though, since the temperature's so intense on the mountain that Link will literally catch fire. I know I can get fireproofing potions at the Foothill Stable, but that'll also mean I can't use any defense buffs during the fight against FIREBLIGHT Ganon, so I'm not sure how well this will go, but I guess I'll find out tomorrow. Climbing Death Mountain wasn't particularly difficult. I got my potions, and the single Guardian on the mountain can be easily avoided by climbing instead of taking the paths. I reached Goron City, talked to Bluto, and made my way to the old mine. All I have to do is use the cannons to launch... Oh, wait a second. I have to use the cannons. Oh no. The only way to move these cannons is to hit the switch with a melee weapon. Is this completely impossible without using melee weapons at all? Okay, hang on. I can find a way around this. Google is my friend. Well, it's no one's friend, but it'll help me find what I need anyway. Okay, 5-year-old GameFAQs message board to the rescue. It looks like if I set a travel medallion in the area where Yunobo is, I can just skip the entire portion. It also says I have to do it before talking to Bluto, but that's fine because I don't save often enough. My manual save is way back before I got to Goron City, so I'll just climb up the mountain again, no problem. So I went and got the travel medallion, came back, did not talk to Bluto, and it turns out the area is actually too hot for the potion to handle. Shit. Well, I could take this opportunity to finally learn how to make a flying machine, and, no, this will take way too long to figure out. Okay. It looks like the rim of the mountain actually connects to a cliff that I can jump off of to paraglide to where Yunobo will be. This can work. And here I am. I placed the medallion, talked to Bluto, talked to Yunobo, and now I can make my way up the... Fuck! In all my planning to get to Yunobo, I completely forgot about the cannons that I used to launch Yunobo at the Divine Beast. Alright, fine. Looks like I'm taking on that line a little bit earlier than I expected. Its shield should work the same as a melee weapon, so I can use it to move the cannons. I guess I'm going farming. Well, that took a few days, but I have everything I need. This is starting to make this challenge tight. I only have 8 days left, and let's be honest, I'll probably need the last 2 to finish editing the video. So realistically, I have less than a week to finish the actual challenge. Well, in the past few days, I spent most of my time working back and forth between Laurelin Village and Gerudo Town to buy hardy durians, as well as some defense-boosting crabs and fish. Once my money ran out, however, I had to go hunting for my own supplies. Fortunately, there's a pretty easy way to get the durians from the Farron Tower. I just have to wait 24 in-game hours for them to respawn, which is actually not bad because it lets me work on my notes and start the editing process along with hunting crabs along the Laurelin shoreline. The thing is, though, that in the time I was gathering everything I needed to cook the meals, I learned that there's a Savage Lionel shield just sitting in Hyrule Castle waiting for me to come and get it. I spent 3 days senselessly collecting durians and hunting crabs. I really need to plan ahead for these kinds of challenges if I'm going to keep doing them. Anyway, I went to Hyrule Castle, grabbed the shield, and put it in my house for now because I think I'm actually going to go deal with Vah Meadow first. Something else I realized while collecting durians is that I'm not going to be able to deal with the heat of Death Mountain Crater because the fire potions are only 1 level of flame protection. and when you are that close to the lava, you need more than that. The game expects me to have the Flamebreaker armor right now, but I'm not allowed to wear clothes. The rules say I can only wear clothes when I'm explicitly required to by the game. Being too hot is not an explicit requirement. If I fight FIREBLIGHT GANON on Varudanya, I fight it on fire. However, I have a plan. If I understand this game correctly, each Blight Ganon I defeat on their Divine Beasts should be one removed from the Sanctum. This means if I can defeat WINDBLIGHT and THUNDERBLIGHT Ganons on their beasts, that should leave only FIREBLIGHT and CALAMITY Ganon still in Hyrule Castle. I think I can manage this. I still want to try to defeat FIREBLIGHT on its Divine Beast, because I'm not sure if defeating it in the Sanctum and not saving Daruk will fuck with my plans for the true ending, but I have 8 days left before Tears of the Kingdom, and I still have a video to make in addition to actually finishing the game. This will be my Hail Mary plan. If I'm still not finished with all 4 Blights by the end of Sunday, I'm going to try to kill both Ganons in the Sanctum. And if this plan doesn't work, I guess I'm fucked, because I work every day until the release of Tears of the Kingdom. I might be able to finish this by then, but realistically, Sunday is the final day of this challenge. So with this new plan in place, I turned my sights towards the Rito Village. Getting to Vah Meadow was pretty much exactly the same as it is in any other run, so I'm not really going to talk about it. Inside Vah Meadow, on the other hand, I was a little bit worried because the Malice Eyeballs were clearly placed in locations to require bows to kill them, but some clever bomb placement and paragliding got me to all the terminals, and I made it to WINDBLIGHT Ganon. And I gotta say, when you aren't using melee weapons, WINDBLIGHT Ganon is fun. The low damage yield of my remote bombs made my best strategy parrying its Guardian lasers, and that led to some real chaos throughout the fight, especially during the second phase, where it was sending blasts all over the place, and I had to be constantly on the move not to get hit. Ultimately, however, I took down WINDBLIGHT and saved Revali's soul from eternal torture. At which point, I needed to end for the day. The next day, I made my way to Gerudo Town, and I talked to Riju, who told me about the Yiga clan stealing the Thunder Helm and asked Link for help recovering the artifact. So, I headed over and fairly easily snuck through their base, making sure to steal the Banana Horde, just like King K. Rool would have done. And finally, I arrived face to face with Master KOHGA. Now this is where that Lionel shield I got out of Hyrule Castle comes in, because you can't actually defeat KOHGA with the runes alone. You actually have to hit him with something, and since melee weapons are illegal, and bows are only for puzzles, my only option was to smack him with a shield parry. Unfortunately, the only shields you can hit enemies with are Lionel shields, and I gotta say, I am glad there was one in Hyrule Castle, because, as you're aware, my attempt to kill even a red main Lionel was disastrous. Anyway, I defeated KOHGA pretty easily by bopping him with my shield every time my rune stopped doing damage, and took the Thunder Helm to Riju. On board Vodnaboros was a different story, however. The Divine Beast itself wasn't a problem, again, using the bombs to kill the Malice Eyes and parries to kill the Guardians on board, but then I reached THUNDERBLIGHT Ganon. I should have been more concerned about THUNDERBLIGHT Ganon. I quickly realized that it was too fast to fight with any form of safety, and my strategy quickly became to parry its sword, drop a bomb at my feet, and then blow up the bomb, and myself, before THUNDERBLIGHT could ready its shield. Let's just see how that went. Yeah, this isn't working out right now. Let's check out my odds on Death Mountain. Okay, then. This might take some time. Oh my god. Fuck THUNDERBLIGHT Ganon. I upgraded my bombs, so I'm doing 2 times as much damage as I would be doing. I'm still barely doing anything to this guy. He's fast and hard to parry, and no outcome is actually good for me. Either I, A, parry too late and it damages my shield, B, parry too early and he slices the absolute shit out of me, or C, I parry perfectly and then I have to blow myself up just to do another pixel of damage to it. I have to stay constantly on my toes just to manage anything. And even then, it's just not enough. This could be a brick wall. THUNDERBLIGHT Ganon's second phase takes all the problems of the first phase and makes them worse by adding lightning to the mix. It's faster, and when it hits you while charged up with lightning, it deals a devastating amount of damage. I am burning through meals like crazy, and I don't know how I'm going to defeat it. Eventually, I finally got its health down enough for it to start trying to blast me with its Guardian Face Laser. Okay, All I have to do is parry it, and it only destroys the shield. I guess I can say I'm happy it doesn't try to play Dead Man's Volley with the laser, but also I can't just parry the laser to deal enough damage to destroy it. Great. It looks like blowing myself up remains my only viable strategy. After hours of dying and dying and dying and dying, I finally saw my moment. When THUNDERBLIGHT GANON started to charge up his laser and, instead of floating up into the middle of the arena, he floated up to one of the sides. I parried its blast and ran up to it and beat the ever-loving shit out of it with my Lionel shield. With that, THUNDERBLIGHT died and my hopes returned. I might actually finish this after all. It's nearing the end of Sunday and Death Mountain is impossibly hot, and every time I take damage from fire, the game cancels out my runes. This makes the very notion of even getting to Vah Rudania seem pretty ludicrous, so I decided against even attempting. So I headed straight to the castle, but I wanted to make a pit stop first and battle a little extra boss for the Hylian shield. I don't know if I'll need it per se, but I wanted to have it on backup, just in case Calamity Ganon destroys all of my other shields. I got to the lockup and made my way to the Stalnox. It wasn't a hard fight, but it was rather tedious. I just kept throwing remote bombs at it until I couldn't damage it anymore, then got behind it until it tried to sit on me. As soon as it butt-pounded the ground and fell apart, I had a pretty easy time destroying its eye with a remote bomb. With that, I obtained the strongest shield in the game, but I decided to leave it in the back of my inventory. I'll pull it out if I need it, but I want to try to finish this with the shields that I've found out in the wild. These low to mid-level shields have carried me through since the beginning, and I want to let them see me through to the end. I got to the top of the sanctum, and this was it. The final showdown. A double threat of FIREBLIGHT Ganon and Calamity Ganon itself. It's time to put an end to this. Tomorrow. Okay, so the day after tomorrow. The 8th was a busy day for me. I would love to say that FIREBLIGHT Ganon was a tense challenge that tested all my skills, but yeah, it was a pushover. If it hadn't been for the fact that I couldn't get past the sentries, I might have been able to beat it even while burning to death in the Death Mountain crater. I literally just juggled it with remote bombs until it died. But this was it. It was time. Time to face down the Calamity itself. Something I will say that I did not anticipate was that you don't have to rescue all the Divine Beasts in order to get the massive attack on Ganon at the start of the fight. I don't know if not actually restoring the beast to the champions changes that, but it's too late to turn back now. I don't think it would have really changed the outcome, though. Calamity Ganon is a fairly straightforward boss, and by now, especially after THUNDERBLIGHT, I have a pretty decent handle on parrying. It's a little disappointing, actually, that I don't have much to say about the final battle, because it was mostly parrying lasers and spears back to in his face and dodging his other well-telegraphed attacks. Nothing special other than it took a bit longer since remote bombs don't do as much damage as the Master Sword. With the final blow on Calamity Ganon, that's the end of the challenge. Dark Beast Ganon is little more than a glorified cutscene, and you really can't do anything to change up how to defeat it. Just shoot it in the glowing points and that's it. Though, it would have been really neat if I could have parried its big fuck-off laser. And with that, the big old sludge boar is slain, and I got to see the post-credits scene with Link and Zelda once again. The Calamity has been defeated, and with a few days to kill before it's time to stab Ganondorf in his handsome face. Well, that certainly was an interesting challenge. It wasn't the hardest thing I've ever done, but it definitely took some creativity. I actually have a few ideas of things I can do in Breath of the Wild, specifically on this save file, and I had a lot of fun putting this whole thing together. I might start doing challenge content here. I don't know. I'm not sure what I'll do, but I have a few other Zelda challenges I want to tackle, so we'll see how that goes. If you want to see me take on these challenges in real time, I'm going to start streaming them over on my Twitch channel, which is linked in the description. It should be interesting, to say the least. I've also been playing through the Mega Man Battle Network series on the collection over on my Twitch stream as well, which has been a lot of fun, so come check it out. But, once this video uploads, Tears of the Kingdom will be pretty close to actually releasing, so I'm going to go play that. Bye.